Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Bourbon Friday Show. We're here at the EQ Lab at T-Rex. I am your co-host, Christian Johnson. I am the founder of Multipass, and this is Nick Niehaus. He's the founder of Connect Marketing. So this is our first like real live in studio interview, like where we're actually just going to be talking to different startup founders. We want to talk to the ecosystem of St. Louis, just about like how do they start their business, all this just different knowledge just about the startup ecosystem, right? So we have an exciting show for you guys today. We have the founder of Bourbon Friday. Actually, we're gonna find out how Bourbon Friday got started. But first, I just wanted to say that I'm excited just to have the opportunity to be here at T-Rex. This is an amazing place where startups can get started and really launch their ideas. So speaking of which, we're gonna just try this thing out. I'm sorry we only have like one mic, but next week we're gonna try to have more mics, and we're just gonna make this happen. We're getting things launched, and we're taking action, and that's kind of like the motto of even today's show. Feel free to send us your comments, send us some likes, even send us some questions that you have for our interviewee, Erik. We want to know what you guys are thinking. We want to know how you guys, what interviews you guys want to see. Maybe you want to be on the show for the Bourbon Friday show. So we're going to just talk about what has happened this past week. Big news coming out of Facebook, right? And Nick is going to talk a little bit about it.
All right. Thank you, Christian. Obviously, this one microphone thing is going to need to change as we move forward. So I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about one of the biggest announcements to ever come out of Facebook, to be honest, especially for businesses. And that was last Thursday. Mark Zuckerberg announced that Facebook is going to make a big change to how the news feed works. So, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, I'm sure you've heard about this. I'm sure you're thinking like, okay, I get the point. I know what's going on here. What I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about some of the specific things that a small business can try to actually take advantage of this. So I think a lot of businesses have been looking at this as kind of a scary thing. You know, the reality is the number of business posts that are going to get shown to people is probably going to be going down. And that is kind of scary because a lot of businesses are getting business that way. So I think, though, that actually is going to be a good thing. And I wanted to kind of talk about that for a second. And then I wanted to give people one or two things that they can really focus on doing over the next few weeks and few months to actually take full advantage of this change. So the main point that came out last Thursday is that Facebook is going to switch from prioritizing the amount of time someone spends on their website and their app, and they're instead going to prioritize meaningful conversations between people, right? So what that means is that instead of just sitting there and consuming lots of meaningless videos, you know, the whole 10 interesting things that happened this last week, that kind of stuff, they're going to be prioritizing things that your friends and family have shared, with the objective being that they want you to comment on those posts and actually engage with people. So the VP of product, I think he's the VP of product management, Adam Mosseri at Facebook, was interviewed last week. And he was asked about what this means for small businesses. And obviously a big chunk of companies that are going to experience a big hit here are publishers. So the news companies, they're not going to be getting as much reach on their posts anymore, but also small businesses. So I wanted to hone in on small businesses and startups because that's obviously the people we like talking to. That's what we're doing, and that's what's impacting us. And there was one thing that really stood out to me about what Adam said that nobody's really talked about yet. And that was that he said that their algorithm is going to be updated to prioritize long comments. So if you're posting things on Facebook, you want to be focused on generating long comments as a response to your post, right? It makes sense because they're focusing on conversation, and conversation is usually more than 2 or 3 words at a time, right? So the kinds of, comments that are like, love it, or great post, I mean, those aren't going to help all that much, right? So we really want to focus on longer comments, like people asking questions. So when you create a post, I mean, I think that's one takeaway that we can really focus on is how do we get people to comment in a meaningful way and to leave longer comments. And I'm looking at this as 2 sentences or a formal question. That's what I'm looking for. So a lot of people have been asking, okay, what's the first step? How do I kind of transition to that? And the first thing I would say is look for places to leave long comments. So I think a lot of us, we focus on, it's all about me and my posts and how do I make those stand out? And you can generally learn how to take advantage of these things by being on the other side. So if instead of worrying about your own posts the next week or two, focus on finding places that you can leave meaningful comments. So we're again talking, more than one sentence and start conversation. So this is something I've already been doing. I've been trying to look for places where I can leave a 3 or 4 sentence comment. And I've actually engaged with some people more than I ever have before. And I'm like, oh, well, this makes sense that Facebook's making those changes, right? Because obviously that's what they're going for. So that's one thing as a small business owner you can start doing immediately. A lot of the businesses we work with have expansive referral networks. They have people that they're kind of partners with. And so start with those people. Leave long comments on their posts and kind of see what that does. See if that gets them some more exposure. The second thing I really encourage people to start focusing on are groups. So Facebook pages have been a big thing for a long time. Now we're going to start to see groups be more important. And again, and this is coming from the director of the stuff at Facebook, so this is not me guessing. He was talking about how this is because groups tend to have more conversations. If you think about a page, it's a one-way kind of conversation. It's a business broadcasting. A group, it kind of puts everybody in a level playing field. So there's a few examples of that. There's the STL Tech group that I'm a part of here. A lot of T-Rex members are part of. There's the STL Marketers group, which has about 300 members, which a friend of mine started about a year ago. And that's exactly what happens there is you see these people post things, but then they get a video of maybe, Gary Vee, who's very popular amongst marketers, and we can sit there and comment on it and have a conversation around it. So that's something that I think is going to be a really neat feature moving forward. And again, it's another reason that groups are kind of such an exciting thing right now.
Wow, thank you, Nick, for that. That's informative. I did not know all of that. So one thing I think was really interesting is that really using Facebook this year to really start whatever you're trying to do, whether it's that new business and using your advice to really start having those engaging conversations. So I'm really excited just about just this kind of new year concept. I don't really like New Year's resolutions. Yeah. I am really committed to saying, okay, if I'm going to start something, this is what I'm doing every day, and I'm making it happen. I'm executing because execution is the game. So speaking of execution, we have a guest, and I'll let Nick introduce him.
All right, so I'm trying to produce the show on my phone and participate at the same time, so you have to have some patience with me here. But I got my questions pulled up. Obviously, you can see that we have our guest here, Erik Lutenegger. I think I said it right, sorry. So Erik is the founder of Tenacity here at T-Rex, which is a startup in the building. He's also the founder of Bourbon Friday, so that's why we're very excited to have him on today, is kind of tell the story of how Bourbon Friday got started and hopefully eventually entice a few more people to come join us on Bourbon Friday. I do believe it is invite only, but if they want to reach out to us for an invitation, we can hook them up with that. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Erik in a second here. We're going to try to figure out how to hand the mic back and forth. We didn't think much about that ahead of time, but let's go ahead and start out by just telling us about Tenacity. So this is a company you started a few years ago, I believe. Tell us about how you got started and kind of where you're at this point in the growth of the business.
I guess history-wise, I've been doing web development for about 20 years. I started in college. I might be one of the older people here at T-Rex. But so throughout my getting started in my career and as far as like a professional career, went through a few different companies, worked my way up to being like a director of client technology for a corporate communications company where I was working with Fortune 500 companies and even global companies, BMW, Caterpillar, that kind of thing. So after doing that, I decided that I was kind of ready to start my own thing. And Tenacity is, as I might say, I guess it is a web development company focusing on open source platforms such as WordPress, Modex, Drupal, Joomla, basically anything that's popular out there. And with a real focus on performance optimization. So not just making things quickly and producing these things quickly and leveraging those technologies that allow that, but also making them as fast as possible.
Cool. Okay.
Gotcha. I know the mic thing is just going to be a problem. Obviously, we're dealing with it as we can. So tell me, so you talk about optimization, right? Are we so this is about speed? It's about sites that are especially user friendly. Is that correct?
Yes. So if you look at a lot of the statistics, they show that drop-off rate increases with load time, right? So you could be losing. I think Amazon did a study. I think it was Amazon or Walmart, perhaps, that did a study that for every 1/10 of a second, they lost 1% of sales.
Oh, wow.
Which could be a huge amount.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Look up that statistic. That might be wrong. So this is something that I think that smaller businesses and startups can compete against larger businesses.
Okay.
Because smaller businesses like ours are nimble, right? And it's easier to make those kind of changes than it is across a larger company. You're having to think about like how this impacts an entire infrastructure versus a smaller company might be, I just need to add a plugin to my WordPress install and then can have somebody that knows what they're really doing and configure that. A couple hours work and you're done. So it's really important for people to be thinking about this, not just like, well, how fast does my site score well? Or like when I load that page, does it just take a really long time? Because there are a variety of platforms that are made to like really score well on all of these tests, such as Google PageSpeed Insights or Pingdom's PageSpeed or Web Page Test. And those are the three that I typically use just to get a picture of what's happening on a website.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can attest to that as a marketer that if your page doesn't load quickly, you lose a lot of eyeballs. People give up very quickly. So we see that a lot with landing pages. So that's why I know a lot of people use, third-party landing page, builders, because the big reason is they load faster than if they put it on their website directly. So, okay. One thing I do want to ask you about is T-Rex. So you've been a member of T-Rex now for quite a while, I think. And just tell me about why did you decide to join T-Rex in the first place, and what have you gotten out of being a member here over that time?
Okay, sure. So I've basically been at T-Rex the entire time that Tenacity has been in existence, or roughly the same amount of time, which is, I think we will be like 2 years, 7 months, something like that. And so I came here, I mean, I came here initially, honestly, because it's a great deal, right? The membership here is very, very reasonable, extremely reasonable. They have fiber internet to the building and all the things that you'd want where you would go to a coffee shop and easily spend more than the membership costs here, easily. But then after coming here, I really realized that this community is such a special place in St. Louis. And whether it's meeting people that you would never meet in your life, different countries, different demographics, all of these things, and getting those different ideas and the openness in this community is so impressive. I'm so thankful for this place. And I mean, really this place, I kind of think of this as home and my loft as just the place where I sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And after developing so many friendships here, we can talk about anything and everything. And if you're really concerned about something, say payroll, I don't have any clue how to do payroll. Well, I can talk to 5 different people about how they do it in 5 different ways and kind of figure out how that would work best for my company.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, so that's a good lead into one of the other reasons we asked you to come on the show today, which was you're the bourbon father, right? I mean, you're the founder of Bourbon Friday. And I think that, to me, like Bourbon Friday has kind of become the main social event for T-Rex, something we do every Friday. You kind of got it started by bringing a bottle of bourbon in. Now we kind of have a rotation of people that try to bring one in every now and then. So tell us about, how that got started, where the idea came from, and what's the bourbon of the week this week?
So I think it initially got started. I was talking to a variety of people in the co-working space, and there was just a general interest in whiskey, scotch, and whatever. So sort of occasionally somebody would bring something in, and then I think it was somewhere around January, I had something that happened to be on my bar that my brother had got me for Christmas. It wasn't exactly bourbon, but it was just something that I wanted to share with people that actually meant something to me. Mm-hmm. And so I brought that in. That sort of got started, and we started talking about how we should do this every week. So I decided, okay, then I'm just going to start. And I think that's, what we were talking about earlier about action is like, sometimes you just got to start. Mm-hmm. And, I think it allows us in a much more casual way than other things that have happened here, like different happy hours and that kind of thing, in a much more casual way to really get to know each other rather than just like on a superficial level where we're just talking about our business or whatever. You really get to know each other. And then that establishes something that's very important to me is trust, right? Mm-hmm. And when you start establishing that kind of relationship, that's really valuable. And then I don't know how to manage this. All right. So what I brought in today, this is not. So it's not a terribly expensive bourbon, but it is something that I believe you can only buy in Kentucky. It is Heaven Hill Distillery, which is the same distillery that makes Evan Williams and Elijah Craig. It's bottled in bond, which bottled in bond is, I believe, one of the first government regulations on any food product or alcohol product, and that was due to basically people putting terrible things into whiskey, and the government had to step in and say, hey, you can't do that. It needs to be this, and we're going to certify that it's this. It's also a 6-year-old bourbon, which bottle and bond only requires it to be 4. It's 100 proof. That's part of bottle and bond. So this is from Bardstown, Kentucky, capital or bourbon capital of the world is sort of the way they call it, and I thought it was appropriate to have on here.
I like it. I was actually, I'm recovering from being sick and I was planning on not drinking, but I think I have to try that tonight. I mean, that description just kind of sold me on it. So I do think we're running out of time here. We shoot for about 20 minutes on the Bourbon Friday show. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'd like to thank Erik for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And Christian, would you like to close things out for us?
Sure. All right. Yeah, no, thank you. That was very inspiring. What I really liked about what you said the most, Erik, is like really building that community through just uncommon ways of just being able to have a drink with somebody, but also building that trust. And one thing about business is that's what matters, because people really do business with people. It's not really just about like you have great products and that's great and everything, but it's that human connection. And so just being able to share a drink with each other and be able to really truly talk to each other and get to know each other, that is what T-Rex is about. That's what this community is about. That's what helps grow us individually as a whole. That is what we're trying to do with this EQ lab, with the Bourbon Friday show, really trying to add value to startups as a whole in our ecosystem and beyond. So thank you guys so much. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Please share on your Facebook. You send us a message. If there's somebody you want us to interview, please send us a message and let us know. And we will see you guys next week. Peace.